Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 episode. What is that? That's when I had a guest on in the past, and I like him so much I had to bring him right on back. So today's special return guest is Jeremy Epstein, and he's the co-chief investment officer over at Crypto Futura Fund. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
Honored to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. So it's great to have you back on, of course. Excited to catch up. And I know today's topic, the transition to a new economic paradigm, I mean, couldn't be more timely on that one. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing over at Crypto Futura Fund. Tell us a little bit more about the fund, please.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't go too much because it's for accredited investors, but basically our thesis is around how the macro forces that we're seeing, this erosion of trust in centralized institutions, this hyperconnectivity, the desire for people to have more control over their own financial assets, less risk, more privacy, less surveillance. All of these things are coming together. So we think there's a huge opportunity out there to participate in this new, like we talked about, economic paradigm that are crypto assets secured by public blockchains. So for those right type of investors, that's the exposure that we give them. And that's we just think there's a lot of opportunity out there. So we're going after it. We'll see if we're right or not.
Man, that's awesome. And so let's just go a little bit further into the new economic paradigm. I mean, where do you want to start with that one and what's going on?
I mean, look, you and I are all, and everyone else is all locked up in their homes right now, and we see that this healthcare tragedy is unfolding in front of our eyes, and that's just heartbreaking. But I think behind that is a bigger tragedy that's unfolding, which is the economic tragedy. And I'm not just talking about the millions of people who have filed for unemployment and all the businesses that are going to be affected, because that is also a big problem. But the response that governments around the world have basically had no choice but to do is just create vast amounts of money out of thin air. The Federal Reserve's created $600 billion in the last 5 days. There are trillions of dollars that are being created. And what this means for all of us is the value that we've all worked so hard to create and store for ourselves and for our families is being inflated away at increasing rates. And that's just really sad. And then you combine that with the fact that people are going to be more likely to work from home, work in distributed environments. They're going to be looking for opportunities to generate income that aren't based on industrial model or even, service models where you have to go to a physical location. So this new era that we see evolving is one that's going to be give people opportunities to have that type of security, to protect their wealth, to participate in new, more provably fair economic systems where we basically have a type of stakeholder capitalism that everybody wants, and most people don't realize is already sitting out there. So we think that this is the time where history begins to pivot from the command and control economies that we've had to a new one that's more provably fair, more transparent, and more reflective of the value that people create while allowing them to live life the way they want to, without having to, expose themselves to the risk of governments inflating their money or healthcare pandemics by being in closed environments with other people. So I know it's a lot to get your head around, but that's kind of what we see out there. And we think it's a big opportunity in world history.
No, it definitely is a paradigm shift, absolutely. And what do you, I mean, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, obviously, but what do you think are some of the things that people should have on their mind in terms of kind of figuring out what's next for them?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think the first thing I encourage everyone to do is try to think about where does money come from and why does money have value. And I think when you start to explore that, you realize
when you do that, it gets scary, Jeremy. Yeah, when you do that, it gets
really scary
because you're like, wait a minute,
it's a big magic trick.
Yeah, it's
exactly
the biggest.
right.
It gets real scary when you do that. When I first researched and read this like 400 book on the 400 page book on the reserve like 15 years ago, and I'm like, what was it called? Like the something island. I forgot the name of the book already, but I was like, whoa, this is all just made up, huh?
Dude, you know, I love the fact that you're saying that. I tell people it's like the Matrix taking the red pill. Like once you've done it, you just cannot look at it any other way. And it's hard for people, I know, people who live in, you know, America or Western Europe where all things considered until recently we've had a pretty stable economy, but get out of your bubble and talk to people who are from, say, Argentina or Venezuela or Cyprus or Sudan or Zimbabwe or any of these other countries where the governments abuse that power. And you start to understand that money is just basically has value only because we all believe it has value. And once people start believing that it doesn't have value, then things go south. And it pains me, man. It pains me so much. But every government-backed currency since the beginning of time, go research, and Voltaire has a quote about this. You know, go to look up Gresham's Law and Queen Elizabeth I.
I found the book, by the way. It's the creature from Jekyll. It's the creature from Jekyll Island. A second look at the Federal Reserve. You read that book. It's real. It's not like one of these. It's not a conspiracy book. It's not whatever. It's just actually documenting what actually happened. They were called the Money Magicians.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. It's I mean, look, the intentions were pure. I'm not, you know, I'm as patriotic an American as you're going to find. I believe in the concept, but like, and the intentions were pure. And I'm not saying, and when Hamilton, you know, went around creating the first bank of the U.S. and all, the Federal Reserve, the intentions were there. How do we provide a stable economy? But the dollar's lost 95% of its purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was created. And that's because when you have money and politics intertwined, it's very difficult for central bankers to resist the pressure that politicians put on them to lower interest rates. I mean, we've seen this the last couple years, you know, with the way Trump has been abusing Powell and what have you. And it wasn't just Trump, it's all the way going back. And so I guess my mission is to help people kind of understand the risks that they are assuming by putting all of their trust for their family's financial welfare in a government-backed currency, which is what puts the basis, part of the basis of my Bitcoin thesis. And at the same time, the economics that, you know, their livelihood depends on. And that's why I say, look, I would rather put my energies and my efforts into working for systems that are provably fair, that are transparent, that are open by default, that are inclusive, guaranteed inclusivity, guaranteed, respect for diversity. You don't have that in our current system because what we're now doing is we're throwing all this money in at these super low rates. But you know who gets that? Wall Street, big companies. You can't borrow money at 0% interest, but super rich corporations can. And I realize I sound like a crazy evangelical person. And, you know, honestly, I don't even give a damn anymore because it's like I've spent so much time studying this and I just want to help people just look at it. Look at that devil or whatever you called the guy from Jekyll Island. Sorry, man. Like really just appreciate what the risks are and just educate themselves and make their own decisions. And I think when you start to do that, you realize, wait a second, okay, I don't have to opt out 100%. I'm not saying sell everything and go 100% in crypto. That's an idiot's play at this stage of the game. But going 100% the other way and saying it's never going to work, honestly, I think you're just foolish.
Yeah. A lot has changed, and just to be open to an alternative. What I think makes it interesting to be just open to an alternative and willing to learn is just the fact of how it was started in the first place. If anybody goes down that path of really understanding what money is, or the concept of fiat, or the fact that your local bank is a product. It's just a product.
Yep.
Like there's other products out there. If you start mentally thinking about your normal concept of money as a product, then it makes sense. You become open to this other world of possibility where it's like, wait a minute, there's other products that people are. Just think about I always tell people this. Well, I said, so you're telling me that you can't exchange value for something else. And I'm like, well, how about the corporate barter system out there, like corporations trading within themselves? It's like a $4 trillion, something ridiculous, like industry of just corporations exchanging goods with each other. There's no money exchanged. So tell me that you can't have exchange of goods and value with something
100%.
other than money when corporations do it all day long, and these are big enterprises. I mean,
and this is a story to me. You nailed it, man. But this is like, it's easy to get focused on money, and Bitcoin sort of the first example of this. But this is a story that's much bigger than money. This is a story about trust. This is a story about trust. This whole thing is about, if you think about, like, right now, we're getting information from China about the number of, virus infections there. We're getting information from the WHO. You're getting information from Trump. You do not know who to trust.
Yeah.
Nobody knows can you trust CNN? Can you trust Fox? Can you trust MSNBC? Can you trust the Times? Can you trust the Journal? You don't know can you trust some random dude on Twitter? You don't know. And that's like painful and creates anxiety. And what makes me like fall in love with, provably verifiable computational blockchains, which I know sounds a lot, is that the underlying premise is you don't have to trust anyone because you can verify everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you can verify, like, I love you, Adam, you're a great guy, but like, I don't know you from Adam, semi pun intended there. But like, It doesn't matter, because if you say, I'm good for this money, or even better, I'm good for this piece of information, I can verify your reputation. I can verify your assets. I don't need to know you. And that reduces the cost of trust, of established. Think about all those documents you sign when you refinance the mortgage or something like that. All of those are trust brokers who are serving middlemen to make a transaction happen. And every single one of those is in cost and friction and time and risk to the transaction, because all of your data and all of my data is sitting in there. And if you don't believe me, call Equifax. That's why all your data is on the dark web now. And that's what this story is about. And money is just the easy first use case because we all sort of deal with it. But this whole thing is about, we don't know who to trust right now. And so the fundamental theory says, don't worry about that. You don't have to trust people. You just have to trust that 2 + 2 always equals 4. And if you believe that, then you can go from there. And to me, like, in a world where trust is just eroding at a rapid pace, I would rather say, look, the centralized institutions, which did a great job for a long time, are falling apart. It's not okay. I don't want my kids living in that world. We got to create a world where we can create trust, but not rely on people who are vulnerable and susceptible and corruptible and manipulatable to provide that, because we've seen where that gets us. Sorry for getting all ranty on you, man, but sometimes I get worked up about this.
It's all good. I love it. You brought the fire today, Jeremy.
I did, man. I'm fired up. I am totally fired up.
I know you are.
Right now.
That's awesome.
I know.
I'm
living my truth, brother.
I love it, and I can hear it in your voice, man. This is great. So that being said, I know you work with accredited investors, and the people that are accredited investors are listening, and they know who they are. So that being said, what are the right type of people to follow up to learn more about Crypto Future Fund? How do they follow up?
Yeah, I mean, you can just hit me up on Twitter and we can take it from there. That's where I spend way too much of my time now, is JER979 on Twitter. So I can't make a general solicitation. I don't need the SEC or FINRA coming after me or anything like that. Obviously, I gotta walk that fine line. And even if you're not an accredited investor, I just think it's something you should get educated on, not just on Bitcoin, but anything. And I'm not saying guaranteed results or guaranteed returns, and it is risky. We're still relatively early in the game, for sure. DYOR, as we like to say, do your own research. Figure it out.
Awesome.
Make your own assessments. I blog about this stuff 5 days a week. I blog at blog.neverstopmarketing.com, which, as you may recall, is the company I founded and I actually sold a majority share in recently. So I still blog there as part of the team. But there are a ton of great resources out there that you can look at, and there's some crappy resources, but I post a lot of that. You can start there, and happy to talk to people who are interested and just do my part.
Awesome, man. Well, Jeremy, it's been great catching up with you on this Reunion 2020 episode. Great stuff here. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. I'd love to know what you're working on and what kind of things you got going on in your world. And Jeremy, thanks again for coming back on the show.